we've reached a decrease in employee engagement in the US. Banks have been outperforming the credit union movement as a whole in service excellence.
Internal service before ServiStar was just kind of something that existed in the background.
We are doing member service, but we're doing the member service within our own employees.
For internal service, it's as important, if not more important, than it is external service, right?
Culture fixes engagement. And then we transfer cultural skills through training, but training doesn't change culture.
You're listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, a podcast that delivers value and offers up insight that'll help your credit union grow. ServiStar has been consulting with credit unions for over 20 years, growing them in the areas of cultural development, leadership development, and management training. To learn more about what ServiStar can do for you or your credit union, check them out at ServiStarConsulting.com.
Welcome to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. Today's an exciting day. I'm Scott Anderley, and we've got
Scott Albrecht. And imagine if you ate all the food that you could and only 31% of it benefited your body. I mean, that'd be a crazy day, right? It might be a fun day, but overall, is it really helping your body to have only 31% of your food contributing to your body?
That's a lot of ice cream. And that makes me operate very slow and not as well. You know, talking about 31% benefiting my body, it gets me thinking about benefiting the body of my credit union team. And it reminds me of an article that I just read from Gallup. They just released the 2025 State of the Global Workplace. And in it, they said that we've reached a decrease in employee engagement in the US. And we're at 31% of US employees are engaged. And, you know, Albrecht, we teach a course called Service Excellence. And sometimes people might say, all right, 31% of people are actively engaged. All right. So that means there's a lot of people not engaged with work. Well, what does that look like in the credit union? Some people might say, you know, my credit union's doing fine and not be paying attention to the results. But there's something specifically that I'm like, oh, there's a stat we pull up from Service Excellence that directly correlates with this, Albrecht. What's the correlation you see? Can you let our listeners know about this?
Well, the correlation is this. If your credit union is full of ice cream, it may be an awesome day, but you're really not going to be able to turn around an awesome day for your members who own the credit union. Welcome to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, and we are excited to kick off Service Excellence with some fun guests that have joined us today. Who's joined us, Scott Anderley?
And we've got a panel. Let's bring them on up. So we've got quite a few people. And actually, you know what? I'm going to have them introduce themselves real quick. So let's start off with, I don't want to tell them their name. Well, let's just start off with a team PEFCU. Who's representing PEFCU? What do you do over there?
So, I represent PEFCU, and that's Public Employees Federal Credit Union. I am the branch manager of the Lakeland branch. I've been here for about 6 years. And so, we're super excited to be joining ServiStar and recently taken the Service Excellence training and just can't wait to dive in and work with my team. So we're happy to be here.
And what's awesome, we're talking about service excellence, and today we're going to do a really big deep dive on internal service. And we're talking to the credit union that's serving the number one in customer service out of all the groceries 11 years in a row. So really, really excited to get your perspective and application on this. But not only do we have someone from Florida, we've got someone all the way from Michigan. Introduce yourself. What do you do? What credit union you work at?
Yeah, my name's Austin Kimberling. I am the VP of Compliance and HR at UP State Credit Union. We are located in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And we started our journey with ServiStar about 8-9 months ago with Scott, and we have been full steam ahead ever since. We're very excited, and thank you guys for having me as a guest.
Yeah. What's really cool with Austin's credit union, like you said, you've been here 8 or 9 months, but hey, this wasn't a one-time event. This was an event that is starting a cultural change. And it'll be really exciting to see all the things Austin and his team has done to serve his internal team to really create this culture. Last but not least, I say last, but it was the first credit union, fun fact, that I ever trained on site all the way in New York from Nashville, Tennessee. But New York, tell us who you are, what you do.
Hi, I'm Melisse Robinson. I'm the VP of Human Resources and Organizational Development. And yes, with Hudson River Community Credit Union and way upstate New York, and we truly mean upstate New York, and came to be with ServiStar Consulting, as Scott said, doing service excellence and also cross-telling. So happy to be still part of the ServiStar family.
Yeah. So guys, thank you all for being here. I'm really excited. You know, I read this article about the 31% of people are engaged. And then I think about in service excellence, what we talked about is what does this look like? And we talk about, I believe it's called ACSI, and how are banks being perceived when it comes to service excellence, and how are credit unions being perceived in service excellence. And consistently year over year since 2018, banks have been outperforming the credit union movement as a whole in service excellence. And, you know, when I was at HR Hudson River, we had some really great conversation of the factors that affected this. But today, what I really want to focus on is a big piece, which I would say is internal service, is us serving our coworkers, our leaders serving our employees, our team, and what this looks like. Because I believe that there's a overflow effect. I think of it as if I'm giving of myself, I need to be filled up with something. And to be filled up with something, I need to be filled up from my team or my leadership, whether it's development opportunities, just knowing that they care about me on a human level, things like that. So let's paint the picture. Let's talk about before you worked with ServiStar, before you had the service training. What I want to hear is, all right, this idea of serving your internal team, was this a foreign idea? Was this something new to you? Is this something that you've already been living out? And then when ServiStar came, you're like, yes, this is exactly what I believe. Paint the picture. Before ServiStar, what has your view been on internal service, and how have you lived that out? Whoever wants to jump up first.
I can go, Scott. Yeah, so I think for us, especially, internal service before ServiStar was just kind of something that existed in the background. It wasn't at the forefront of our minds. And when I say that, it's kind of like that golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. And how we can take that and turn it into service standards was, I think, very foreign to us. And you know, we didn't really have. We know where we wanted to go, but we didn't know how to get there. And, you know, your team really helped us with some actionable goals and actionable items that we could say, hey, this is how we want to treat each other, but how do we make that into something that you can carry out and act on every day?
So what I'm hearing you say is you had this end goal in mind of what your team looks like at service at its fullest capacity. But what I'm hearing you say is that you had the end destination in mind, you just didn't know exactly how to get there. And what I'm hearing you specifically say is something that's been very empowering for you and your team was this idea of developing service standards. Is that right?
Correct.
Could you touch on, like, explain, if you could give like a minute and you're telling someone who's never heard of service standards before, how would you explain that to somebody?
I would explain them as in actionable items, things that you can actually do every day, like catching somebody doing it right. You know, how you greet the member, how you're getting down into the nuts and bolts of service, not just this big 30,000 foot view of, hey, we're going to treat people right and we're going to provide good service, but how does that happen? And really diving into each individual interaction is how I would explain it.
And really well put, something that you can do every day. And actually, Maria, with your credit union, we actually helped develop service standards. And you, as a branch manager, also branch manager of that one Branch of the Year award, you're helping live out this, making sure that your team's living out these service standards. What are some service standards that you catch your team doing it right, or that's really important to you at your credit union?
Yeah, so, you know, for 2025, we're really trying to focus on, you know, our service standards, and we have our senior leaders that are backing us now, right? So a lot of these things I've worked on throughout the years, but now this is the standard. These are the expectations of each and every employee at this credit union. So when you walk out in that lobby, you put your hand out and shake their hand and say, welcome to Publix's credit union, you know, and that's catching someone. When someone does that, we catch them doing it right. And it's like, great job. And if they don't do it, it's okay, but it takes 30 days to make a habit, right? So we started out with baby steps, and now that we're 4 months into it, I can
Yeah.
tell you, if you walk into my branch, you're going to hear it from every employee in the branch. So,
Oh,
yeah,
and I liked what you said there is going off Austin's point is these service standards, it's habits that no matter who you interact with, everyone is doing it. And yes, it might take some time to learn, which we talk about in the coaching is that discomfort is a product of growth. So some people, it might take a little bit, but that's why you're there as a leader. You're coaching these behaviors like welcome to Publix's credit union.
exactly. And it was difficult. I'm not going to lie. And, we're changing our elevator speech and kind of how we do things, but it's setting that standard so we can be consistent across the board.
Yeah. So, Melisse, tell me, how was your team and your view on service? How did bringing ServiStar validate it, enhance it, or was there anything that was a big change for your team because of it?
So prior to ServiStar and Service Excellence, I think when you think about credit unions, you have your departments that have that direct member service. We call member service departments, but you don't think about the fact that the other departments, your back office functions, your HR, your accounting, your finance, we are doing member service, but we're doing the member service within our own employees.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
So basically we were thinking about that and how do we do that? How do we enhance it? And then going through, service excellence started making me think about, how can we really train our managers and our leaders going forward to continue with that high service standard, not only for our members, but also for our employees, because then that will actually have them engaged, which is what we were talking about at the beginning, or you were talking about at the beginning of the podcast. So how can we bring that forward to have more engaged employees? So we created a 3-level leadership program called the HRCCU Leadership Academy.
Yeah. Well, hold on to that real quick. But what I heard you just say, which is a great leading in the point I really want us to hone in on, is this idea of serving our internal member. So in service excellence, we talk about serving our account holders, who we call the external members. But we also tell everyone, hey, this course is not just for member facing, it's for support positions as well. And I love what you said of how we serve one another affects how we serve our members. And this is a big, at least for me, I'm really passionate about, because I believe if we serve each other well, we're going to serve our members well. Going back to that survey, the survey says 31% of US workers are engaged with work. What Gallup says is the answer is they give you 3 things. It's you want to develop your current leaders so that way their leaders are equipped to create an engaging, motivating environment for their team. They say you want to provide development opportunities for your employees as well. And I don't remember the third one. I want to really focus on those 2 because I think the group that we have is going to really focus on this. So with this idea of serving the internal member, I want to hear, all right, after service excellence came, Austin, you're coming in, you're telling me about the power of creating these service standards has really helped you serve your internal member. Maria, you're talking about the importance of, you're also taking a coaching, a leadership course to help you do your job well, to help you serve your members. Melissa, you're talking about this leadership academy that you're doing to take care of your internal team. I want to give an example of how I've been taken care of, and I want to hear from y'all. What are some things that you are doing or how you've seen? But for me, how I see taking care of your team takes care of the member is really Albrecht. It's you. I'm going to brag on you for a bit. Albrecht, maybe you say jokingly, maybe you're serious, but you say you have the tendency to overwater your plants. And I was your little plant for a bit, and he really helped develop me, making sure that I understood the material well and how I would apply it based on my experience. But even more so than that, he went over and beyond and really has helped develop me to be the speaker that I am today. Like he would watch all my videos and he'd be like, you said, this many times, or, hey, you could have transitioned or had a longer pause here for dramatic effect. And all of this stuff, him focusing on me and me feeling cared for on a human level, but also in a performing level, has then, I think y'all have all experienced me training on site at your places. And if anything was inspiring or motivational or really hit home, it's because of the internal service that Albrecht gave me. So what I want to hear from y'all is when we talked about this at Service Excellence, when I came and spoke with y'all, how did that change how your organization works? Maybe it was like a big, 180-degree pivot. Maybe it wasn't a big pivot, but it was something that was fuel on the fire for y'all. How did this idea of serving the internal members amp up your credit union?
I'll say for me, with the talking about the Leadership Academy, it actually came out of a conversation that Scott, you and I were having, and we were just talking about our employees and training, and we started talking about Emerging Leaders Program with ServiStar, and I, kind of started thinking about how can that fit with, talking about our internal members, which is our internal employees. And yes, you have to start with the leaders. So we've created a 3-tier plan, I'll say, and we've called them level 1, which is for our supervisors. And that is the entry level, someone who is currently a supervisor that needs to work on more skills such as conflict resolution or performance management of themselves. It could be somebody who's career tracking to be a supervisor. We see that in them and we want them to learn those skills. The second level, level 2, is our manager and our director level. So again, it can be employees that are career tracking to be in a manager or director level. They could already be in a manager or director level, and that they want to, be able to increase their skills in certain areas. It's a 2-year program, which is where Emerging Leaders comes in. The first year they attend the Emerging Leaders program with ServiStar. But it's also geared as well for maybe an employee who doesn't supervise or manage someone, but they manage a department, and maybe they're a department of one or a project or a function, and we see that they could actually use some of the skills or some of the courses or seminars that we have within the different department. They'll actually be able to attend those. And then our third level is our AVP, VP, and Chief Career Path Development. So again, a higher level. We're actually going to be using Vertex Nation as the first year round, which is this also a 2-year level. And again, it may not be, somebody goes through the whole entire program, but somebody who can also utilize the benefits of the program to be a strategic leader. But it is all about how our managers are engaging their employees from the top down and how we can create that better employee/member service with each other. Because then if we have employees that are happy, and engaged, it will feed out into the rest of the credit union and our members.
Yeah, and speaking to that, there's 2 things. One is when we're talking about internal service, what you've done is really you're creating a potential succession plan. You're saying, how do we raise up leaders with who we have? And you're giving hope to people saying, whoa, maybe I could be a VP, maybe I could be a chief leader. And you're giving them a clear path and expectations of what needs to be accomplished to get there. And even for people that don't plan on moving up in leadership, there's a sense of comfort knowing that, hey, y'all have a plan and you care about the longevity of your company, which is awesome. But also what I want to speak to that you and I have been doing, Melisse, there we go, is my tongue. All right, is the level of involvement you have in developing your employees. So we met before you sign them up for Emerging Leaders. You gave me their names and positions. And you talked about what they're good at and what they're not. And this is what I hope that a lot of people going through Emerging Leaders and Vertex do is we're talking, I'm going to be working with them. We're going to teach. They're going to be in small groups. They'll have homework, but then they're going to come to you and talk to you about what they learn and how they're implementing it. And you're going to follow up with them and coach them, catch them doing it right, redirect anything based on what we've talked about. And you're really, this is not just a, let's check it off the list and send you to a training. No, it's, I really care about you and I want to see you develop. And I think that is such a cool example of internal service that you're doing. Let's go to,
Thank you.
Austin, this idea of serving the internal member. When we spoke about that on site, how did that change? I know there was a lot of stuff going on in your head that day when we talked about that and how you've been implementing it now 6-9 months later.
Yeah, so to give a little background, we were the first credit union in Michigan to merge 2 credit unions into us at the same time. So 2 separate institutions merged into us at the same time. So really what that was about, that was the first time we all met as a group, was with you that day. I don't know if you knew that, but that was the first time we'd all met as a group. And as the part of that is what do we want UP State to look like? What do we want that service to be? And the main thing that came out of that was setting these expectations. Hey, these are the expectations of how we're going to treat each other. And I'm a firm believer, I'm not going to treat the member better than I treat Jackie in accounting or Connie in internal audit. And so we really wanted to really dive into the details. And to tell a story, I'll never forget, I applied at a law firm before I went to law school, and I misspelled, I think, 2 words. And the prosecuting attorney sat me down and he said, Austin, he's like, if you're going to get in this line of work, the devil's in the details. And that is so true. I didn't get the job. I was devastated at the time. I didn't get the job, but that always stuck with me, the devil's in the details. And when it comes to service, I think, especially for us, is that we knew how we wanted to treat each other. We knew what we wanted UP State to look like, but having you come in and being able to set those expectations of how we treat each other and really dive in, even to the smallest details, has helped this culture of service and this new merged credit union culture move forward and as one UP State credit union.
Man, that's really cool to hear. Yeah, you brought everyone in, and you utilized that. What we did in addition to the service is we had you and Darcy come up and introduce your service standards, what we expect everyone to do no matter what your position is. And then we broke y'all off in each of y'all's teams by department, and y'all created SMART goals of how are we going to implement this new one of these new service standards, which, hearing what you just did, that's a great way to kick it off and get everyone on the same page, which is really, really cool. You know, it reminds me of that quote from Brene Brown, to be clear is kind. And I think that's what you've been doing lately, Austin. So from this, you know, Maria, you've been, I think, already been living this out before we even spoke. I'm imagining more of us talking about this is just re-energizing you or getting you thinking about some stuff that you've done. When we talked about this idea, and I love what Austin brought up, is this idea. Well, actually, before I bring you up, Maria, Albrecht, you and I, something we talk about big time is our level of service to our team has to be equal to how we serve our external members. Albrecht, when you train service excellence, what's like the big point that you really try to communicate there?
Well, engagement is down. Culture fixes engagement. And then we transfer cultural skills through training, but training doesn't change culture. So what do we do if we know that we need to change culture to drive engagement, and we know that we're going to try to do that with training, but training doesn't change culture? We need Austins, right? We need Melisses. We need Marias in the world to take what we train and actually turn it into real world functional facts. You know, leaders got 2 votes as to how this thing goes. So what do we define culture as? What does it look like? And I think what Austin touched on is really important. It's formalizing the informal. Everyone knows what the golden rule is. But with 5 generations in the workplace for the first time ever, we got to be a little bit more formalized as to what it means to greet somebody, right, Maria?
Yeah.
You do a handshake. Well, not everybody's going to think that that's the proper way to greet somebody. We as leaders have to step in and step up into our roles as leaders and actually formalize those little details that are the devil's in the detail, as Austin said. Yeah. So it really doesn't matter how I train it. I know that was the question. It really matters what leaders like these 3 leaders do with it after I'm gone. Because the second I get on that plane is the second this whole thing can fall apart if the leaders don't take it and do something with it.
You know, that's a really, really great point. And which, again, thank y'all. That's why we have you on here, because we know you care. Maria, you're in the thick of it right now. We're finishing coaching with all of your leaders, coaching 4. How is that going for you? Implementing these service standards,
You know, the service standards, we started this year, and, you know, we're going through them, and it's becoming habitual, you know. But getting back to the internal, we have to be the best we can with each other before we're serving excellence to our members, right? You know, we're lucky because, you know, we've got Publix supermarket as our seg group, right? And they're number 1 in customer service. So we have to be that much better than Publix, because when they go to work, they have high expectations. When they walk in our offices, they have high expectations. So for internal service, it's as important, if not more important, than it is external service, right? So it's how we treat each other, right? It's how, you know, we show up each day to work and, you know, circle around and meet with your team and just say, hey, how are you doing today? You know, doing wellness checks. You know, if we're really busy, I just did a couple of them right before we got on. Like, hey, team, how's everybody feeling today? You know, we know where our lobbies are slammed and all that. But, you know, working with the other internal departments too, I kind of want to circle back on that because after we had our training with you, I definitely did notice a little bit of a change here in the credit union on just the way people answer the phone or answer a question. And, certain times on the front line, we can't answer all the questions, right? So we have to get some back office help. Like Melisse had said, some of we're all here to serve our members. Sometimes we aren't just in front of the members, right? So I did definitely see a change here at the credit union and just a little bit, more niceties, I guess, so to speak. So I love it, but I'm super passionate about, my team and trying to serve them and just doing fun things, right? So if it's all right for me to kind of go into that, or were you saying?
Oh yeah, I want to hear it. So what I'm hearing you say real quick is, hey, service to one another is so important. You're starting to feel just even how different departments, because very often support positions are like, I'm not member facing, my service doesn't matter, I just do my work. And what you're saying, no, the little things make a huge difference for us as member facing when we're communicating. And now what I'm hearing you say is part of this service excellence as you grow with your role, you're a manager. Now you're viewing really your service is to your team. And it sounds like you've got some examples or some ideas, some things that you've done of how I serve my team. I'd love to hear that. What do you got?
Yeah. So, we'll look and see like what little fun days we have coming up. So here's an example of today. Today is National Hamburger Day. Look it up.
Oh,
Right. So my assistant manager's husband took his morning off of his day off and grilled hamburgers and brought them in for the team. So, it takes a village, right? We're all working together. So we had the hamburger day. So they just loved it.
that's awesome.
One of the other things we do is we get a little cart from the facilities department, set it up like a little ice cream truck, dress in our little red and white striped outfits and hats, and walk around with the ice cream truck music, and we'll pass it out to the employees, to the staff. And at first I was like, man, I maybe I shouldn't go into their office because they have a member. But I thought, why not? Why not let the members see what we're doing? So when I first started doing that, it was really, really cool because you're walking through the lobby and people are like, what is going on? And when you walk into an office and you hand that out and say, hey, thanks for what you do, we really appreciate you, the member sees that too. So it's super impactful, and the team they love it. So we love to do and celebrate, little days and things like that. So
I love that. And something I wanted to speak to on that for our listeners is, maybe you were like me at one time and I'm so focused on, all right, what's the mission? It's helping others win with money. Let's focus on the others. And I'm so focused on our external members. And I'm saying, you know what? I'm willing to inconvenience myself and push myself and exhaust myself temporarily to help my clients. So I started expecting that of my team, that I forget to take care of my team. And what I'm hearing you say, Maria, is, hey, as I move up and I become a leader, well, my job is to take care of my team. Or like Austin, hey, I want to take care of my team by creating clear expectations. Or Melisse, create clear expectations of developing leaders. And if I do that and I take care of them and I treat this like my full-time job, then that's going to help them, energize them to care for others. And I imagine how your members feel when they see you taking care of your team. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling. And, we do weekly check-ins, we do our one-on-ones, and we do everything that we're supposed to, as I do as a leader. And that's super impactful, but just some of those fun things definitely are worth it too.
Yeah. So moving from this, I want to open it up to everyone. Let's do a little bit of, actually, this is what we're doing. We're going to do story time. All right. And in the story time, I want you to share one story of where you've received excellent service from someone on your team. Maybe it's a leader, maybe it's someone, an employee that works for you, maybe it's a fellow department. All right. I want you to share a story of when you've received excellent service, and then a story of maybe how that kind of culture where you've been served has impacted you to serve others really well. But before y'all share that story, we're going to go ahead and do a commercial break and get a word from our sponsors.
What determines excellent service? Why is excellent service more than just fast, friendly, and accurate service? Learn how to go beyond the expectation of our members in our Service Excellence Workshops. These are live online workshops where member complaints aren't actually seen as a bad thing, where we go into the shoes of the member and identify why service is more than fast, friendly, and accurate. It's people helping people. By definition, service excellence refers to the ability of service providers to consistently meet and occasionally exceed consumers' expectations. In ServiStar's Service Excellence Workshop, team members will learn why service is critical to the success of the credit union and how it's foundational building block of the credit union philosophy, people helping people. Dates are already available online, so check it out at servicearconsulting.com.
Welcome back to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. Albrecht, we're about to have some story times.
I thought the sponsor was going to be Steak and Shake. All that talk about hamburgers and ice cream. I thought we were saying the unhealthy food is the problem at the workplace, but apparently we need more of the hamburgers and the ice cream at the workplace. This is where the analogy falls apart. So let's stick to the script. Let's go to our three special guests on the Credit Union Leadership Podcast and hear the stories from right there yonder, right in the credit union movement where people are helping people.
Yeah. So something we talk about in service excellence is the idea that my level of service will to my internal member should be equal to the level of service to my external member. So what I want to hear from y'all is, all right, when was there a time maybe you caught someone doing it right, of serving your internal team, or maybe you've experienced service. Maybe you had a moment of truth from someone on your team. So I'm going to open it up. I don't know who I want to start with. What stories do we have?
I can actually go. So going off of the ice cream truck, I did steal that from another department, but I want to tell you a story that that I've experienced, and a member has experienced it here in the branch. We had a member that was signing loan docs in the branch, or here to sign loan documents, and the systems weren't working, right? And it's beyond our control. So they were here for a ungodly amount of time, what I thought. And so reaching out to my lending department and them trying to work through some technical things, they found it just wasn't working. So our assistant manager, Ryan, brought his laptop and came into the branch, and we sat in an office with this member, and through some more trial and error, finally got his docs up and was able to get him his loan and his money funded so he can go and do what he needed to do with those proceeds. But it was sitting next to the member, and it was having a conversation with them while we were trying to, oh my goodness, this just isn't working. At the end of the interaction, what was so cool is the member had invited both of us to come to his ranch for a day, come to the ranch,
Wow.
we're gonna, and all of that. So it was really, really cool to have, the other leader from another department just literally walk over and help us out, So I have given many kudos to that team. So
Wow, what a great story. And that reminds me of something we teach on Moments of Truth with Service of Excellence, which in Moments of Truth, it's this idea that every little thing that happens, anytime a member comes into contact with any element of our credit union, whether it's the person, how we talk, how we present ourselves, even our building, how it looks, all those things create moments of truth. And we break it down to, you're ranking them 3 different ways. Neutral, it's what I expected. Negative, it fell below expectations, or positive, it exceeded expectations. And what I'm hearing is this could have been a lot of negative moments of truth, but because your lending department, they weren't like, I never see the member. No, they're like, how can I help you and help the member the best that I can? They saw negative and they turned it into a positive, which created an overall positive experience, which is really, really cool. Albrecht, what are some thoughts you have with moments of truth in this story?
Well, and this story is a good example of something that could happen to anybody on any given day. And there's no playbook for it, right? And how the little devil in the details, and how we greeted that member when they first came in, and how we maybe asked them to have a seat and we let them sit down before we sat down. These are the service standards that are standardized, that are consistent, that are simple enough to be able to be repeatable, which means that we can deliver them consistently across the channels, so that when we do blow it, and we can't get the loan docs to pull up, and when we do need to pull in somebody else from another department, those standardized, consistent behaviors that happen across the standardized channels allow us to still have a W at the end of that day. And so that
Mhm.
that team member went up above and beyond and did the eighth service excellence element, which is going the extra mile. But it was
Yeah.
everybody in the team that did those little things like smiling that really allowed us to still have that extra effort towards the end to get a W at the end of the day. So don't pay attention to the story and think, oh well, so I just have to wait for this one member to come in to have a loan closing go bad and then I can use service excellence. No. You're always going to have something go wrong. It's the little things that make a big difference when that happens. You'll be able to cover your bases a lot more as things hit the fan. It's the credit
You know,
union. Just wait a minute. Something's going to go sideways. And so these standards kind of cover your bases as to how that member was served internally and externally leading up to that moment.
I love how you tied it into 2 of our 8 elements. One, extra effort. What can I do to go over and beyond to create a positive moment? And the other one's competence, living out our service standards, making sure that we're doing this stuff, that we're knowledgeable, or if we don't know it, that you know the right department or person to get them in touch with to get this fixed or resolved. Which actually, you know, Austin, I want to bring it up to you. This idea of competence being a key element in delivering excellent service. Let's talk about, you know, if you have a story you can share, but what I really want to hear is I've had the pleasure of partnering up with you, and this idea of you want to enable your coaches to start catching people doing it right, that it's a habit, and you're helping them develop competence by providing them tools and resources so they can be competent in catching people doing it right. So let's talk about that story, the idea of catching people doing it right, how you really got on board with it, talking about expectations, and then you setting clear expectations for your leaders through some of these tools you've created.
Yeah, so through that, you know, baseline, we started with the service standards, right? We got these service standards, the details, how we want to treat our internal members and our external members. So now we have the blueprint. And so from there, what we did is we took it to that next step. So we created coaching forms. This is what you're going to use when you're evaluating, or not evaluating, but entering into a coaching session. And in the past, and I don't know if Maria or Melisse can talk more about this, but like coaching has always had a negative connotation set up with that. It kind of attached to it, like, oh, I'm in trouble, I'm getting coached. So how do we remove that? So we really created a Service Excellence Award that we give quarterly to our team members. And what that is, you know, these leaders are expected to catch at least one person doing it right every week. And then they send us those recommendations. And based on those, we award a service champion at the end, and we give them, you know, some PTO, things like that. And it's really worked well in that, not that you needed it to be required, but now it's in the forefront of their mind every week. Hey, I've got to catch somebody doing it right. I've got to at least move that story on beyond just me. And then we've got this really cool idea at the end. We're having Scott come back this year, and we're going to take some of those and have everybody sit down and record like these different stories and then play them in a video at the end of the year. And kind of on top of that, we've really drilled down on these details and added them to our annual employee evaluation. So what we've done is we've taken these little details of service and added them to the evaluation. So now they know, hey, this is part of what is expected of me. And not only that, we make coaching mandatory before they can get a negative evaluation. So if say a supervisor wants to give a negative evaluation for some reason, that team member has had to been coached on that specific topic before they can get that on their evaluation, which is it's made everybody a lot more comfortable with that process, in that, hey, I know I have not received any coaching sessions. I'm comfortable that I'm doing a good job. I'm going to go into this evaluation. It's going to be a positive experience.
Man, that is so good, because what you're doing is you're taking some of the stuff we're teaching it, making it UP State. And what you're specifically talking about, Maria, you're going through this right now. We talk about the 4 employee quadrants, right? If they're willing to do it and they're able, we catch them doing it right. If they're willing to do something but they're unable, you instruct or you train. That's part of the reason why we have the sales courses and the training and the leadership training. But then the one that's the most important for leaders to be coached on, led on, is what do you do with someone who's unwilling but able to do the work? and you coach them, or not coach them. You have effective confrontation. That is an element of coaching. And Austin, what I just heard you say was, before we get to saying they're so unwilling that they're unable, and we have to hold accountable and do maybe a negative evaluation or hold them accountable by filling out paperwork or the oral warning, whatever the process is, they have to coach them first. They have to coach them and say, hey, you're bringing good things in, but there's something holding you back. This is it. What are you going to do differently? That has to happen. And you've given them a tool to make sure that they're doing that, which, Maria, this is pretty fresh on your mind, right? We're talking about these quadrants and what you're seeing in this tool. Does this spark up any thoughts?
Of course, yeah. This was a great tool that when I came out of training, and actually, fortunately or unfortunately, I did have to use it. And it was a simple, we require our tellers to stand at the teller line and greet the members, right? There are chairs there, but they're required to stand. So there was a constant battle. And so this really gave me that tool to sit down and say, hey, your referrals are great. Everything is, you greet the members. However, you're not standing, and we've talked about this. So at this point, I'm done coaching you. What are you going to do about it? So, and having those it helps to have, the tool helps us to have those difficult conversations, and really put it back on the employee, because we care, right? And we want them to succeed. And we don't want anyone in that, unwilling state. So it's definitely helped. I will say that, back to what Austin said with their leaders catching someone doing something right. What we've done here is, what I have challenged my team is put it in the Teams chat and catch each other doing something right. So we'll see teams, and like the challenge today is, make sure we want to see at least one catch your peer doing something right. And that's really, it's really been fun.
That's really cool. Austin, well, I didn't mean to stop you in the middle of you telling all the great stuff you're doing. What else did you have?
Oh, no, I was just kind of elaborate on that. And Maria kind of talked about caring for your employees. And, you're not necessarily my employees, but the credit union, they're like children, right? And I want to think of them as, like, once you have a child, you're not just going to get rid of it. You want to keep them, and you want to nurture them, and you want to bring them up. And
you want them to become adults. Yeah.
And you want them to, and you want to, care for them. Like, they're not expendable. They're a part of the family now. And we really try to emphasize that through the service standards.
Yeah, man. So, Melisse, we're talking about all this stuff. Your leaders are going to be going through this coaching module that Maria and Austin are both talking about, how it's transforming their culture. But right now, is what we're talking about making sense to you right now? Because I know you haven't been through our coaching session yet.
No, we have not, but it actually makes sense. And when Maria was talking about, internal, customer service or member service, it made me think of something that I just recently did. I hope it's applicable, but usually, we're always telling our staff, we want to hear from you, give us your feedback, tell us what you're looking for. Is there something we can make your life better? And so our call center sent a message and said that they would like to have a call center dog, to have a dog come in. Yep, not a therapy dog. They've picked a dog of one of their employees that works in the call center. They would like to have the dog come in and be present every day. It would increase morale. It, a whole host of different items that they felt. And being in HR, all of the reasons of, oh my gosh, this isn't appropriate, this can't happen, why can't they have this? And so I thought to myself, instead of just saying no, I met with them and explained the why I had to say no. And so we kind of got done, and I thought to myself, I feel really bad that I had to say no. Like, is there something that I could do to try to turn it into a yes? So what I did is I went and ordered dogs, one for each employee. That's the stuffed animal dog. And I went down to them like a week and a half later and just said, I've been thinking about how I had to tell you no, even though, it was a great idea, you understand the reasons why. I said, but I'm hoping that this might make things a little bit better for you and help you, during your day. And I opened up a box like you would with a puppy of litter of dogs. And I said, puppies, here's your dogs. And they all picked a dog, and I'm like, you can squeeze them, you can hug them, you don't have to take them out, you don't have to feed them, they're not going to shed, like they're not going to bite anybody. And, they were all laughing. And as I was walking out the door, I heard one of them say, "Oh my God, that was really sweet and cute." And one of the other persons said, "I'm going to take this as a win." And I thought, okay, that was great. So that was my short story to share. So
Wow. That is an awesome story. And what I want to bring it back to some of our material, what we talk about in our Vertex course is when you're leading your team, especially it's in the module, I believe, Albrecht, creating a motivating environment, is your team needs to know that you care for them, that you care for them on a human level. And part of that, what you just displayed there, Melissa, is having a growth mindset, is saying, all right, instead of just saying no, let me ask the question of how can I give them this experience? How can I give them what they're looking for? And you found a really creative way. It's not the dog, but it's just something showing, hey, I care about you. I wish we could do something, but hey, here's what I can do, that's really, really cool. Also, what are you thinking from hearing this?
No, I was just going to share a story that we had too, and it kind of ties into the service standards. So one of our service standards was that you had to do 10 hours of community service in the community. And going for that, always saying no, you can always find reasons your employees want to do these different things and why they can't. We're too busy. We can't let you go at this time. So we decided to incorporate it into part of our culture, in that we're going to do 10 hours of community service during the workday. And if it's outside of the workday, we'll give you PTO for that time. So wow. We have really embraced that. And, we get so many community members coming in and saying, "Oh, thank you. We saw you at this event. We really appreciate you volunteering in the community," and has really stepped up, because we're so spread out and so unique that we don't have a main branch. We do have a main branch, but we all kind of operate. There's management at every branch, so we're spread out. But it's really helped us get involved in our communities and show that we actually are embracing these service standards and living out the state mission and credit union mission, really, of people helping people.
Yeah, man. That reminds me of, I grabbed this. One of my favorite business leaders, Dave Ramsey, author of Entree Leadership. Something they do is they really believe in what you talk about, supporting nonprofits or getting involved with your church, stuff like that. So I love what you do. And that's a sacrifice. That's hard, but you're caring for your internal team. And you're always showing us how it's affecting your community and the external members. And what they do a similar thing. They say, hey, if you go serve your church, like at VBS or a mission trip, they give you certain PTO that you can use annually for that as well, which is really, really cool that you're doing that. It really shows that you take this seriously and that your team's cared for. So guys, I want to transition to our finale, the quiz, where what we'll do is we'll talk about some stuff from the service excellence training and some stuff that we just talked about today. And it's just a fun way to end it, see who wins, and listeners can kind of play along as they listen. But before we do that, I want to open it up to y'all. We're talking about this idea of internal service. We're sharing a bunch of great stories of what internal service looks like. I want to open it up to you. Melissa, you've been with us for over a year. Austin, you're about a little over half a year. Maria, you're fresh in this. What are some questions, or maybe you just have some insight that we haven't gotten to yet? What are questions or insight that you want to share before we get to our game?
I do. I mean, I've asked you this question before, and we're working on it currently. I think doing the coaching, but the keeping the momentum up. I think that is if you're new to this, or if you're into it 6 months, it's like how, we make this our standard, but, sometimes I feel like we just need a little shot in the arm, just of, hey, let's get this excitement about this back up. Life gets in the way. We're going through a core conversion right now, and I don't know if you all have ever been through one of those, and it's a nightmare, and there's no getting around it. But service standards they seem to take a back seat. So, we come back in July after this is all done. How do we keep that momentum going and even just keep on moving that rocket ship up?
Yeah. Maria, you probably have a lot of good stuff to say this, because bringing ServiStar is not the beginning. Well, y'all been working on this momentum before us and have used us, and you've got plans after us as well. What would you have to say of how do you keep this momentum going with service standards and service?
For me, I agree, Austin, completely, because you get into the day-to-day, and it is quite honestly, when you get busy and it kind of gets put on the shelf, but it can't be put on the shelf because it will start to unwind real quick. So for me as a leader, I keep a schedule and I try not to divert from that schedule, right? So when I'm meeting with my team, our homework is to meet with our team on a weekly basis, create those SMART goals, which I know that you all went through. But we've got to keep the team engaged and we've got to keep them so they have homework from each meeting that when they meet with me. So it takes a village, right? It takes you as a leader. It takes, if you have an assistant, and certainly a team that's engaging and a team that really has embraced our service standards. And it's not always butterflies and unicorns.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit of sometimes a struggle, right? So I think as leaders, I've got a very supportive leader that I go to meet with on a weekly basis, monthly basis, one-on-ones, and we just talk through these things. And so she is a huge support and a fan. And will help walk me through. And anytime I'm feeling that, oh my goodness, I feel like, should be doing more, we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So that's kind of how I work through that. And I think it's working.
Yeah.
I think
Well, let me ask you a question. When you talk about, because what I'm hearing you say is you put it on the calendar, this is important. So you make sure it's on there so that way the urgent doesn't consume the important, because there's so many things that we have to do. Walk me through, how long are those, like, are you meeting with all of your leaders at the same time? Is it one-on-ones? And how long are these meetings when you put them on the calendar?
Yeah, so for our ServiStar homework, it's about a 15 to 20 minute meeting
That's
each
pretty
week.
quick.
Yeah, so we kind of, because we've done the longer meetings, so we're in the hey, I've given you this month time frame, so we're halfway through the month, right? On a monthly basis, we do have one-on-ones, and those are for an hour, and then just daily check-ins. Observations are, we just got done doing observations. So I actually was a big part of writing the observations based off of our service standards. So we're getting those out to the team and so the expectations, right? So
So this is really cool. You're hearing from someone who is in charge of keeping the culture going. I would say a change warrior. I also really want to tap into Melisse, because it's been, you're on the other end of Austin's side. You've been doing this for a while and keeping the momentum. What have you done?
We're actually going out, or I should say myself and our credit union trainer, Vicky, are going out in the month of June and July, and we're meeting with all of our member service departments. So it's anybody who took the service excellence and the cross-selling training. And we're actually going to get their feedback to say, hey, okay, how can we go even more above and beyond? Like, what are ideas of things that we're currently not doing for our members that we could say, oh, that is above and beyond? Or, kind of like a start, stop, and a continue. We started with service excellence. We want to continue with it. What are some things that we don't want to do? Okay, we don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. And then what things do we now want to start up again? What's another cycle of that? And we're going to get their feedback as to what can we do to go even farther above and beyond. And that way they'll have the buy-in. They thought of it. They're living and breathing with our members every day. They'll have the ideas as to what we can do. Kind of what Maria was saying is when, they walk out of, HRCCU, we want them to go tell everybody what a great and above and beyond, member experience they had. So that's something that we're doing in June and July.
That's really, really cool that you're doing that. And that's a great way to keep the momentum going and it re-energize. You're kind of starting at the beginning and getting that energy again. It reminds me, I'm just finished a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. The author of that book, Will, just spoke at GAC this year. And what he had created, he was the manager of the #1 restaurant in the world. And something they did, which is similar to what you're doing, Melisse, is he created this team called the Dreamweaver team, because that was his favorite song. But their restaurant, they made great food, but they were known for being unreasonable in their hospitality, the member experience. So this Dreamweaver team, they would be in charge of doing the craziest things. Like, let's share a story. There's one story of these people that they came to the restaurant and they wanted to go on a honeymoon to the beach, but it didn't work out. So they just had a fancy meal at this restaurant. Well, they told the Dreamweaver team, and the Dreamweaver team's in the back, and they're like, what do we do? Well, they thought, well, you know what? I got an idea. So they went out to Walmart, bought sandbags, bought beach chairs, and in the back, they created like a little beach and a little place. And they said, hey, we have some special seating for you back here. And like they came in and got to be at the beach at this restaurant. And they do all these crazy things to develop, go over and beyond in service, which what I'm hearing you say is, oh, man, what do we do to level it up for our credit union? And that book has some, hey, look at that. Look, Marie's got the book right there, which is some really cool stuff. Hey, look, Albrecht's got it too. Look at that. Albrecht, you've probably been asked this question a lot. You've been with ServiStar for a while of how do we keep the momentum going? What are the most successful practices you've seen with credit unions we've worked with?
Yeah, leaders lead, right? So you got to keep it simple so that it can't be overwhelming. Catching somebody doing things right takes about 5 seconds to observe and say, hey, that's a really good job of using their name 3 times. So you just got to give yourself that space to step out of your manager's door and hear somebody converse internally or externally to be able to catch them smiling on a call to IT when the receipt printer broke Friday at 4:55. And they've already ran the checks, and you got your short staffedness, and it's Friday, so people want to go home and enjoy the weekend. And now the receipt printer is jammed. We got a member coming in for an escrow account overage, and they're still smiling. And so you pop out, you say, "That's what, good job living out our service standards on a day where it's probably harder to do that. I appreciate you." Right? So those little things, they keep it going. So it doesn't have to be extra mile stuff. We teach the extra mile stuff. What's that look like? A video, a group chat, ice cream delivered. I mean, if you're a listener, you're thinking about all this. So I got to get ice cream. I got to get dogs. Who let the dogs out? Right? I gotta have them chat. I gotta do a video. No, that's extra mile, and that's why we have these people on the podcast, because they took what we asked them to do and they blew it up and made it awesome. But it's not sustainable.
Great observation.
Every day. It's not sustainable to do it every day. And so what is sustainable is to do the simple work often and make that a priority. Yeah.
Austin, does this stuff help? Does it get some thoughts going? What are you going through right now with this idea of keeping the momentum going?
Yeah, no, it's really hard. And, I always laugh, like, the standard thing like is, oh, we're going to give them a pizza party. It's that, the corporate pizza party type thing. So I'm trying to avoid that.
On the tape.
And think of new ways that we can, especially during this time for us with the conversion going on. That is the only thing. That is the priority. And how do we keep this internal service to each other and to the members, up, and what we can do to make our team members' lives easier so they can be able to provide that. Yeah.
And something else, I think, going to Albrecht's point too, and I think, Maria, you were living this out as well. And I think, Melissa, I took what you said and I brought the most extreme, but what I'm hearing you say too is like, all right, what are the little things we can do? Hey, what's something we need to be intentional about? Is it's escaping me. It's going to come back. It's this idea of the matching principle and empathy. Sometimes people are, hey, this is hard on me. And the answer, I want to fix it. I want to provide a tool to fix your problem. And sometimes I can't. Sometimes as a leader, all I need to do is say, hey, I know that was difficult. Thank you for doing this. Just kind of like what you're doing right now, Austin. You're leading transformational culture change right now, and that's hard. And it's going to take time. Just like we talk about in leading change and building trust in emerging leaders, you don't always know when the end date is of when you achieve this change. And that's hard. But you're living out the mission of our credit union, of people helping people. And I appreciate that. It's life-giving for me to be working with people that care about this. But yes, it is hard. And I think sometimes, I know, sometimes what people need is just, hey, I see the effort you're putting into it. Thank you. Yeah. Let's do this because we're short on time. Game time. Let's end it off with game time. So this is the quiz. You may remember these. I think the person who has the most is Maria, because I was just there. But some of these questions are the same from when we spoke on service excellence. Some of these are a little different, or I've changed them because I know that we've done it together. So give this a scan. Once you scan it, it's going to have a green arrow that says you're all set. Listeners, what's going to happen is I will read the question. and then I will read the answers so you can mentally play along as well and see if we get it right. So let's go to that next slide. It should say quiz. All right. And next slide. Let's see what we got here. And I may open it up for discussion between some of these points, or if this gets you thinking of something, let's talk about that. All right, here we go. First question. What is it? The first question says, according to Gallup 2025 State of the Global Workplace, U.S. employee engagement is at 21%, 31%, or is U.S. employee engagement at an all-time high? The answer is 31%. All right, it's low. It's not that great. But you know what's interesting, guys? As I was reading this, the U.S. is the highest when it comes to employee engagement. So that's pretty crazy to think about. 31% is not that high, but we're the highest in the world. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's see. Go ahead and do that question, Ryan. The service we provide to the external member should be better than the service we provide to the internal member. Is this a true statement or a false statement? We should serve our external member better than our team. And the answer is, it is a false statement. It's a lot of words, but this is where we were talking to, I think, Austin, the checklist, the walking checklist of, hey, did you notice your employees doing this? This is a great coaching tool, having the coaching sheet of helping them diagnose where they are, using the deficiency diagnosis and writing what they're doing. Maria, I think what you're doing and with your coaching sessions, with caring for your team, with catching them doing the right as an example of this. Melisse, I think what you're doing with the leadership development program is an example of this as well. All right, let's keep going. A moment of truth is blank. A member comes in contact with any element of the credit union. So you need to fill in the blank. A moment of truth is anytime. A moment of truth is sometimes. A moment of truth is a positive. All right. And the answer is a moment of truth is anytime a member comes into. So the idea is anything that happens, the member can say this is good or bad. And same thing with our team, when our team's onboarded or when our team's going through a rough day and how we're responding to that. All this stuff gets to that neutral. Is it what I expected? Is it positive? Did it exceed? Is it negative? Did it fall below? But it's anytime. It could be anything. All right, next question. That would be a fun discussion too, talking about moments of truth for you at work. All right, here we go. Empathy is putting myself in someone else's shoes, credit union, or car. I would say if you said car, that's theft. Empathy is putting myself in someone else's. Boom. You know, Melissa, I remember very vividly of us talking about this point at your credit union. I believe this is like the thing you are most passionate about or feel the strongest about. Do you have any notes on empathy or how you've been using that in service or how your team is using empathy when it comes to service excellence?
I mean, I think for us, it's a saying, and I even think I put it into my training, which I don't know if you're going to remember, but it's from Maya Angelou that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, so be kind. And that's how we think about it.
Perfectly put. There's also another quote you said in our sales course that I use a lot too, which is people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. That I really bring this idea of empathy with as well. Really good stuff. All right, next question, Ryan. Being kind and friendly will overcome lack of knowledge. As long as I'm kind and friendly, it doesn't matter if I know how to do the work. Is that a true statement or a false statement? And survey says it is false. All right, being kind and friendly is definitely an element. And actually, some of us member facing, being kind and friendly is something I do need to be competent in, but I need to know how things work. You know, Austin, I say that you're living this out really well right now, is helping your team be competent. You're giving them resources to develop their knowledge and their confidence in this stuff. Is there anything that you have or thoughts you want to speak to this idea of, hey, yes, kind and friendly is an element, but we've got to also know how to coach or how to catch people doing it right?
You know, I think, yeah, kind and friendly is an element, and that's not, I think part of it is, I don't want to say it's not my strong suit, but you know, it doesn't come to me as naturally maybe as some other people. And I think recognizing that is the first step, and having people on your team. I think I have a great team, Miranda, who I work with, who will come in and just check on me. I'm her boss, but she's checking on me and I'm checking on her. And it reminds me to check on other people. And I really think, it comes naturally to some people, but having it, especially in the financial world where you're dealing with accounting and these people, everything's so black and white, numbers. Like if you can put it down on paper for somebody, it really helps them out.
Man, and that was such a great practical, quick example of internal service. Miranda is taking care of her leadership by saying, how are you? And you just said how that prompted you to think, oh, I need to check on some other people on my team. Maria, I want to bring you in on this too, because you had talked about the significance of our coaching sessions, that are coaching trainings, coaching for maximum performance. And I think really both elements in your line of work are very, very important. But you had said how walking you through the effective confrontation, that tool has really empowered you, having that knowledge. Could you speak to how that knowledge and, Becca finding us, getting this training and giving you this has empowered you and is helping you be more competent for your team?
Well, sure. Having that tool, I feel more confident going into those conversations, because in the past it would just be a repetition, and then maybe we would get to the PIP and we didn't want to go on the PIP, and all of that. So I think not only for me is it helpful, but it puts it back on the employee. I will always say, I will give you the tools that you need to be successful in your role. The rest is on you. I will give you everything, but if you fail, it's on you, because you're not going to fail under my leadership, right? So this puts it back on the individual, and it holds them accountable. And so sometimes, we're going through this, we've gone through this kind of last year, like, we're going to start holding people accountable, and it's been rough, right? Are you holding them accountable? Becca will say to me, what did you do to hold them accountable? So, it has given me the tool to hold people accountable.
And also talking about that's like, you can be kind to your team, you can be friendly, but if you need to change someone's behavior to best live out PEFCU's service standards, if you don't have the tools to do that and you're just being kind and friendly, then they might not even know the significance or the weight of why we need to get better at this. So giving you the knowledge and tools, being competent, is what I would say is even helping you be kind and friendly. You can be kind to your team, and to be clear is kind as well. Really, really good stuff. All right, last question. Melissa, I think you're going to blow it out of the water if the question's what I think it is. So here we go. There's no blank in going the extra mile. There's no blank in going the extra mile. Is it no traffic jam, no inconvenience, or no directions? There's no blank in going the extra mile. Survey says the answer is there is no traffic jam in going the extra mile. So first question, Melisse, did you get it right? Yes, thumbs up. All right. This is something we were just talking about. I believe you live it out, but also when we talked about it on site, this was something that you got really excited about, and I could tell your team got really excited about. Could you speak to what going the extra mile, or actually just what does this saying mean? There's no traffic jam in going the extra mile.
I mean, to me, there's nothing that should stop you from going the extra mile. And there's nothing really wrong by going the extra mile. If you go the extra mile, it's going to be seen, and it's not going to be wrong.
Yeah. And Austin, you're going through this right now. You're going the extra mile of saying, hey, this is what service looks like, or hey, extra mile. I wanted to equip my leaders to catch people doing it right, to build a motivating environment. There's no traffic jam. There's nothing stopping you, but we're not going to lie. There's not always directions. We have tools to help you. And yeah, there could be times where it's inconvenient and tough, but it's going to make you stand apart from other people, where people say, I want to work with this person, or I want to work for this person as well. So guys, y'all ready to see who the winner is? Let's go to the last slide, producer. And the leaderboard shows, we've all got weird names besides me. So we've got Puffy, Pingu, Dr. Centipede, and McBoatface. All right, so the winner is Puffy. Who's Puffy? Reveal yourself.
I don't know how I became puffy, but it just showed on my phone. So I said, okay, I'll accept it.
Awesome. Well, way to go, Puffy. Appreciate that. Producer Ryan, thanks for having this. If you're watching the video podcast, you'll see the questions pop up there. But congrats on that. Must feel good to win. So, guys, thank you all so much for being a part of this podcast. I know we talked about a ton of things that are going to inspire current and aspiring, I say, artist leaders in the credit union movement. Also, I think this episode was great of empathy, of where there's leaders that may be going through some hard moments right now, and being able to hear that other people are going through this and they're not alone, they're not on an island, is powerful for some of us. Because sometimes it feels, especially if we're a branch manager and I'm leading my own branch, or if I'm in HR or in training, it feels like I'm the only one who cares about this stuff. And y'all coming in and sharing this stuff is huge. Albrecht, what do you have to say in closing to these guys?
Fad diets don't work. You're not going to use a fad diet to stop eating 69% of bad food that doesn't benefit your body. And cultures don't change because we talk about engagement changing. Cultures change because we point to something bigger than culture, the mission. And fad diets don't work, but you know what does? Healthy lifestyles. And so if you want to change what people eat, talk about the benefits and how it feels to be healthy. And so I don't want to go for a run, but I have it on my calendar to go for a run. Because if I stop going for a run, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to stop going for runs. And so it's all about that greater vision and goal that will actually push you past the fad diet and into a healthy lifestyle.
Awesome. Well, guys, this is the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, where we inspire current and aspiring credit union leaders. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Interested in submitting a question to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, we want to hear from you. Go in our show notes. We have a link over there, and in that link, it's going to take you to two options. You can submit a question written out through email, or you can submit an audio recording through SpeakPipe. We make it super easy. Go to the link in the show notes, click audio recording. Once you click audio recording, it's going to take you straight to a website where you just press the record button. You've got 90 seconds to submit a question or submit you catching doing somebody do it right. And then you just type in your name and email address, and that's it. It comes straight to us, and we'll take it from there. So you don't need to download anything. You don't need to get any new software. You just go to this website, press record, and click submit, and we're good to go. So go to the link in the show notes. Click if you want to submit a question written out or through audio, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
ServiStar offers research-based credit union-specific training solutions that have worked for top-performing credit unions for the last 25 years. Using breakout groups, role-playing, and case studies, our Coaching for Performance workshop series quickly transforms managers' skills from managing into skills that help coach and build more dynamic team members and leaders. You see, coaching is all about improving somebody to their highest level of performance, to their highest potential. Coaching is all about growth and development. And each session will provide managers the knowledge and the confidence to know what to do to be effective performance coaches. We look forward to seeing you at ServiStar Consulting's upcoming Coaching for Performance workshops. You can check those out at servistarconsulting.com/events.